In 1986, Chernobyl exploded. The world focused on the reactor, the evacuated city of Pripyat, the radiation, the disaster. But few noticed something else nearby. A massive structure, hidden in the forest, 150 meters tall, 700 meters wide, steel lattice reaching into the sky. This wasn't power plant. This was radar. Soviet over-the-horizon radar. Codename, Duga. NATO called it something else, the Russian Woodpecker, because it interrupted radio frequencies worldwide. A repetitive tapping, thump, 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 10 times per second. Annoying, mysterious, unexplained. For years, until Chernobyl, until evacuation, until the signal stopped, and people started asking, why was classified military facility built next to nuclear power plant? Why were they connected? And was there more to Chernobyl than accident? Duga 3 was constructed between 1972 and 1976, just 10 kilometers from Chernobyl reactor. This proximity wasn't coincidence. The radar required enormous power, megawatts, constantly. Nuclear power plant could provide this. Reliable, unlimited, classified. Building coal plant would attract attention. Questions. Nuclear reactor could be explained as civilian energy, serving cities, powering industry, while secretly powering military installation, perfect cover, dual purpose, civilian facade, military reality. The radar's purpose was early missile warning, detecting launches from United States. Over the horizon means looking beyond Earth's curvature. Traditional radar is line of sight, limited range. Duga bounced signals off ionosphere, extending range to 3,000 kilometers, covering Atlantic, detecting missiles shortly after launch, providing critical warning minutes. Supposedly, this was official story. Detect, warn, respond. Standard Cold War logic. But the system never worked properly, never detected anything, never provided strategic advantage. Despite enormous cost, despite power consumption, despite disrupting global communications, despite everything, it failed, or did it? The Russian woodpecker phenomenon began in 1976. Radio operators worldwide heard it. Shortwave bands, commercial frequencies, amateur radio, television signals, all disrupted. Thump, thump, thump. Repetitive, intrusive, unstoppable. Nobody claimed responsibility. Nobody explained. Signals were traced to Soviet Union, but no official acknowledgement. Theories spread. Weather control, mind control, communication with submarines, population influence, psychological warfare. Every theory except the obvious, that it was radar, just really loud, really powerful, really poorly shielded, broadcasting interference globally. Annoyance as side effect. Not intentional, just incompetent. Or was it intentional? Some researchers argue the interference was deliberate. Psychological operation, making Western populations aware of Soviet capability, creating anxiety, uncertainty, fear. The sound was distinctive, mechanical, alien, unnatural, broadcasting Soviet power into homes worldwide. Every time someone turned on radio, there it was, Soviet signal, Soviet intrusion, Soviet presence. Constant reminder, we're here, we're powerful, we're watching. This interpretation makes the radar's failure irrelevant. Primary purpose wasn't detection, was projection, power display, intimidation. The interference was the point, not side effect. The Chernobyl connection deepens the mystery. Reactor 4 was completing tests. Night of April 26, 1986. Safety tests, ironically. Testing emergency procedures. What happens if power fails? Can turbines generate enough electricity to cool reactor while backup generators start? Critical safety question. But test went wrong. Power dropped too far. Control lost. Chain reaction accelerated. Explosion. Fire. Meltdown. The worst nuclear disaster in history. Or was it? Alternative theories suggest Duga was involved. Not directly, not causally, but circumstantially. The radar drew enormous power, fluctuating demand, affecting reactor stability. Some engineers claim Duga's power draw contributed to instability, made reactor harder to control, created conditions for disaster. No proof, no documentation, just whispers, speculation, but compelling, because timing was suspicious. Tests conducted at night, when Duga operated, when power demand peaked, when reactors stressed most. Coincidence or connection? More extreme theories exist. That Chernobyl was an accident, was sabotage, deliberate destruction, targeting Duga, eliminating Soviet early warning, crippling defense capability. Who would do this? CIA, obviously, usual suspect, or Soviet military itself, disposing of failed project, embarrassing waste, shutting down without admitting failure. Blame accident, blame operators, blame safety culture. Anything except admitting the radar never worked, never justified its cost, never achieved its purpose. Destroying evidence removes embarrassment permanently. These theories are unlikely, entertaining, but improbable. Nuclear sabotage risks too much. Radiation, contamination, international incident. Nobody benefits from Chernobyl disaster. Not CIA, not Soviet military, not anyone. Accident is simpler explanation, more likely, better documented. But the timing, the proximity, the connection, all create doubt. Reasonable doubt, not proof of conspiracy, just questions, unanswered questions, suspicious circumstances, convenient outcomes. Do you believe military installations influenced Chernobyl disaster? The power connection is documented. Duga drew from grid connected to Chernobyl. This is fact. Whether this affected reactor stability is debated. Engineering analyses conflict. Some say power fluctuations were manageable, within design limits. Reactor should have handled it. Others say combined stresses, test, power draw, operator errors, created perfect storm. Individually manageable, combined catastrophic. Duga was one factor, among many, contributing but not causing. This is most reasonable assessment, but not satisfying, because it leaves mystery, leaves room for speculation, for alternative theories, for doubt. The evacuation of Pripyat included Duga. Operators fled, equipment abandoned. Signal stopped, May 1986. Suddenly, no announcement, no explanation, no goodbye, just silence. After 10 years of interference, after annoying world, after mysterious tapping, gone. This confirmed source proves signal came from Chernobyl area, proves Soviet origin, but didn't explain purpose, didn't reveal function, just stopped. The radar stands there still, abandoned, corroding. Tourist attraction now, inside exclusion zone. Visitors photograph it, climb it sometimes, illegally, dangerously. Radiation remains, rust falls, structure deteriorates, but it stands. Monument to Cold War, to failed technology, to wasted resources, to secrets never fully revealed. The design was impressive. Engineering achievement, 3 transmitters, 2 receivers, phased array, 150 antennas, each individually controlled, electronic beam steering, frequency hopping, advanced for 1970s, comparable to American systems, but larger, more powerful, more expensive, and ultimately useless. Because over-the-horizon radar has limitations. Ionosphere varies, unpredictably. Signals scatter, bounce unexpectedly, creating false returns. Noise, interference. Detection becomes guessing, unreliable. This was known problem. American systems faced same issues, eventually abandoned. Satellites superior, but Soviets built Duga anyway. Why? Prestige possibly, demonstrating capability, proving technological equality, competing with West. Cold War wasn't just military, was technological, ideological, showing socialism could match capitalism, could exceed it. Duga was symbol, more than tool. Success wasn't operational effectiveness, was construction completion, was power projection, was international awareness. Russian Woodpecker achieved this, made everyone aware. Soviet technology, Soviet power, Soviet presence. Mission accomplished, even if radar failed. Or maybe it was jobs program, employing engineers, scientists, technicians, construction workers, military personnel, thousands of jobs, decades of employment. Soviet economy needed this. Full employment was mandate, ideological requirement. Creating make-work projects was common. Duga might be largest, most expensive, most elaborate, but fundamentally same. Employment masquerading as defense. Bureaucracy masquerading as strategy. This is cynical interpretation, but plausible. Explains why obviously flawed system was built, completed, operated, despite knowing it wouldn't work, because working wasn't point, existing was. The environmental impact is concerning. Radar transmitted enormous energy, electromagnetic radiation, effects unknown, unstudied. Soviet safety standards were minimal. If radiation was acceptable, EM exposure certainly was. Operators were exposed daily, for hours, at close range. Health effects weren't documented, weren't researched, weren't admitted. How many developed cancer? How many had children with defects? How many died prematurely? Unknown. Records are classified or destroyed or lost. Typical Soviet approach. If harm isn't documented, it didn't happen. Official policy, convenient policy, deadly policy. Modern visitors risk less. Radiation is primary concern. Duga itself isn't radioactive, but surroundings are. Pripyat, Red Forest, reactor site, all contaminated. Visiting requires precautions, dosimeters, guides, time limits, understanding risks. Some ignore this. Exploring independently, illegally, stupidly. Radiation is invisible, tasteless, silent. You can't sense exposure until later, until symptoms, until damage manifests, then too late. Tourists climbing Duga are climbing contaminated structure, in contaminated zone, for photos, for adventure, for views, risking health. For what? Instagram likes, YouTube views, doesn't seem worth it. The structure's future is uncertain. Ukrainian government controls exclusion zone, manages tourism, considers options. Demolition would be expensive, dangerous. Metal is contaminated. Where would it go? Who would handle it? Abandonment is current strategy. Let time decide. Let rust consume. Let gravity take over. Eventually it collapses, problem solved. This is passive approach, cheap, but irresponsible. Structure might fall on visitors, on workers, on vegetation recovering. Controlled demolition would be safer, but expensive, low priority, compared to reactor encasement, compared to contamination cleanup, compared to everything else Chernobyl requires. Duga waits, deteriorating, dangerous, ignored. Some propose preservation, historical monument, Cold War relic, engineering achievement, tourist attraction already. Make it official, stabilize structure, document history, create museum. This requires investment, maintenance, commitment. Is it worth preserving? Failed radar that annoyed world? Symbol of Soviet waste? Monument to military excess? Arguments exist both ways. Historical significance versus practical cost. Educational value versus safety risk. Cultural heritage versus ongoing contamination. No easy answer, so nothing happens. Default to abandonment, again. The connection to Chernobyl ensures attention. People visit Reactor, then visit Duga. Two sites, one disaster, linked physically, linked historically, linked in memory. This connection is Duga's relevance. Without Chernobyl, without disaster, without evacuation, Duga would still operate, or be demolished, or be forgotten. Normal decommissioning, normal disposal, normal fate for obsolete military facility. But Chernobyl changed everything. Created monument, created mystery, created legend. Duga became part of larger story. Nuclear disaster, Soviet collapse, Cold War end. All symbolized by abandoned radar, in abandoned city, in contaminated zone, in frozen moment. 1986, forever. If Cold War secrets and nuclear disasters intrigue you, subscribe to Veiled Origin. This is Veiled Origin, where military installations hide near disasters and classified projects never fully explain themselves, even after abandonment, even after decades, even after silence. The documentary evidence is limited. Soviet military records remain classified, or destroyed, or inaccessible. Russian government doesn't discuss Duga. Ukrainian government inherited site. Not records, not explanations, not full truth. What's known comes from operators, engineers, technicians. Who worked there? Who fled during evacuation? Who remember? Their testimonies vary. Some say radar worked perfectly, detected everything, proved itself repeatedly. Others say complete failure, never detected anything, wasted billions. Truth probably between extremes, partially functional, occasionally useful, mostly disappointing, like most military projects. The American perspective was confused. CIA tracked construction, satellites photographed site, SIGINT intercepted signals. But purpose remained unclear. Too large for communications, wrong frequency for conventional radar. Patterns suggested tracking. But tracking what? Missiles, obviously. But confirmation took years. Reverse engineering signal characteristics, analyzing frequency patterns, interviewing defectors, building understanding gradually, piece by piece, until picture emerged. Over-the-horizon missile warning, novel approach, interesting capability, ultimately ineffective, but concerning while operational, because American analysts couldn't be certain, couldn't verify limitations, had to assume worst case, that it worked, that Soviets had warning advantage, that deterrence was threatened. This drove countermeasures, investments, responses, Cold War spiral, based partly on failed Soviet technology. Nobody knowing it failed, everyone assuming success. The psychological impact on operators was severe. Working in secrecy, unable to tell families, unable to discuss work, isolated, stressed, exposed to radiation from Chernobyl proximity, exposed to electromagnetic fields from radar, exposed to Cold War pressure, knowing they watched for apocalypse, for missile launches, for World War III. This weight affected mental health. Some operators broke, alcohol abuse, depression, paranoia, standard military stresses magnified by nuclear context, by secrecy requirements, by technology fears. Many didn't survive long after evacuation. Health problems, suicide, radiation-related cancers, combined effects of multiple exposures, multiple stresses, multiple traumas, Chernobyl, Duga, Soviet collapse, all within years. Too much for anyone. The civilian cost was silence. Pripyat residents never knew about Duga, never told about military installation, never informed about radar. Secrecy was absolute. They lived 10 kilometers from massive antenna, heard nothing about it, saw nothing about it, understood nothing about it. Then evacuation, then learning, then realizing. Their city existed to support Reactor. Reactor existed to power radar. Radar existed to watch for war. Their whole lives were military support. Unknowingly, this betrayal added to trauma, not just radiation exposure, not just displacement, but deception, being used without consent, without knowledge, without choice. This is Soviet approach. Citizens serve state, whether they know it or not, whether they agree or not, whether they benefit or not. The Duga 1 and Duga 2 predecessors offer context. Earlier systems, smaller, less powerful, experimental. Duga 1 near Chernihiv, Duga 2 near Komsomolsk. Both tested concepts, proved feasibility, justified Duga 3 construction. This progression shows deliberate program, not accident, not improvisation. Planned development, systematic approach. Each generation learning from previous. Improving design, increasing power, expanding range, military-industrial complex functioning, bureaucracy working, engineers engineering, until Chernobyl, until programs stopped, until evacuation ended development. Duga 3 was final iteration, incomplete, abandoned, never reaching full potential, never achieving original goals. Program ended by disaster, by accident, by fate. The comparison with HAARP is inevitable. High-frequency active auroral research program, American facility, Alaska. Similar appearance, similar purpose supposedly, studying ionosphere. Officially, conspiracy theories suggest more. Weather control, mind control, earthquake generation. Same theories as Duga. Different country, same paranoia, same speculation, same lack of evidence. Both facilities operate on similar principles. High-power radio waves, ionospheric interaction. But HAARP is research, documented, published, transparent relatively. Duga was military, classified, secret, hidden. This difference matters. Trust, openness, accountability. When governments hide facilities, people imagine worst, reasonable response to unreasonable secrecy. The Chernobyl tourism industry includes Duga now, packaged together, Reactor tour, Pripyat tour, Duga tour, combined experience, Soviet disaster tourism, dark tourism, radiation tourism, whatever label applies. People pay, visit, photograph, experience. What drives this? Morbid curiosity, historical interest, adventure seeking, Instagram content, all of above. Probably Duga photographs are dramatic. Towering structure, overgrown forest, abandoned technology, post-apocalyptic aesthetic. Perfect for social media, perfect for content creation, perfect for clicks, views, engagement. This commercialization feels wrong. Disaster as entertainment, tragedy as tourist attraction, but it happens. Worldwide, every disaster site, eventually, becomes destination, becomes experience, becomes commodity. Duga is no different. The radiation measurements at Duga are concerning. Structure itself shows elevated readings, contaminated, by proximity, by wind patterns, by rain, carrying particles from reactor, settling on metal, accumulating over decades. Visitors touch rails, climb stairs, contact contaminated surfaces, then leave. Carry traces. Minimal exposure, probably, but cumulative. Repeated visits compound risk. Multiple tourists equals multiple exposures. Guards, guides, repeat visitors, all accumulating doses, over years, over careers. Health effects will manifest. Eventually, maybe, possibly, probably, we won't know, because tracking is minimal. Documentation is poor. Follow-up is non-existent. Typical approach for Chernobyl, for radiation, for Soviet legacy. The symbolic weight of Duga is immense. It represents Cold War, nuclear age, Soviet military, technological competition, all simultaneously standing there, rusting, deteriorating, monument to era ended, to fears past, to dangers survived. Looking at it now feels different than operators felt working there, than engineers felt building it, than Americans felt detecting it. Historical distance creates perspective, changes meaning, from threat to relic, from weapon to artifact, from present to past. This is history's function, taking lived experience, converting to lesson, teaching future, through past. Duga teaches about excess, about waste, about fear, about Cold War, all embodied in steel lattice, in rusting antenna, in abandoned facility, in contaminated zone, in frozen moment. If classified military facilities and nuclear disaster mysteries intrigue you, subscribe to Veiled Origin. This is Veiled Origin, where reactors power radars and military secrets hide in forests, until disaster reveals them, until evacuation abandons them, until rust claims them forever.